Tim Hasselbeck's been with us all season long, and now we've got our Super Bowl. We'll get to that matchup in a minute. Let's start with Saquon Barkley and the difference that he has made. That's the first question I asked Jalen, by the way, when you will hear that interview a little bit later. But you try to frame what he does for this team. What do you got?
It's a passing league.
Yeah.
They get their big plays in the run game. Like, it's crazy.
What a toss.
Yeah, and it happens every single week, it seems, because the moment you make one little mistake, he makes you pay for it. Here's a good example. They're just running a perimeter pin and pull play, and look at Dante Fowler Jr. He gets pinned, so he tries to spin out of it. Well, you can't do that because now he collides with Bobby Wagner. Now you're not accounting for every single gap. And now what for most teams is a 15-yard gain, now is, a home run. That's what it is. And it's always like this close. They're just running a simple counter play here. But because of the threat of Hurts as a runner, look at how slow Bobby Wagner, who's going to go to the Hall of Fame one day, is to react to this counter play. Because he's not sure. Like, do I have to deal with Hurts keeping the ball? I don't know. Well, here come the pullers. And so now look at the angles that they get on Bobby Wagner. And now next thing you know, that's Saquon just finishing a run. They are so close on a lot of these like 10, 12-yard runs to being the 50, the 60-yard touchdown runs. We see some of them, but they're also close a bunch of other times. And so they're just different than every other team in the NFL, especially right now, because it's really all based on their run game.
The recipe for Washington could not have been 4 turnovers to none and 4 more penalties, some of which gave Philadelphia chances to add to this. I mean, in the end, they scored 55. It's a heck of a year for Washington, a lot of runway for them to figure out who they're going to be moving forward. In the AFC, we know who Kansas City is, and unfortunately for Buffalo, they know who Kansas City is as well. This game, it plays out like so many before in terms of this one. How'd they get it?
Well, listen, I think that we've talked a lot about the defense for Kansas City all season long. Their offense has not been as explosive, but they do what it takes. And so when you look at what they did offensively, they tried to run the football. They ran Patrick Mahomes. Let's watch this. They run a counter, midline counter. So they hand the football off. Mahomes had the ability to keep it.
First drive.
Later in the game, they run the same exact play. This time Mahomes keeps it. Well, here's why I say they do whatever it takes. Go back to September. There's the Baltimore Ravens running that same exact play that Mahomes scores on there. The same exact formation, the same look. And so I think what that is, and whether it's Andy Reid, whether it's Matt Nagy, whatever they do, like they've identified kind of who they are on offense right now. And they're using the guys that they have to the best of their ability. They have 15, and he's special. And so you can do a lot of things with him. But they're also not afraid to say, look, we're going to go steal from the Ravens' run game in critical moments because we saw the success they had back in a game in September against that defense.
There's a 4th down stop, which we showed that I don't get, and this isn't conspiracy theory. It's just it's impossible to know where the ball is, and the guy with his back that Allen's got his back to seems to mark him short, and whatever. After that, you've still got a tie game, right? Kansas City scores, and now Buffalo's got the ball, and there's a different 4th down. And it's a 4th down where Buffalo's got to have something, and here comes Spags doing what he does. What happens on that 4th down play?
Yeah, they do a great job of disguising the pressure. And you mentioned that, like, Spags makes the right call at the right moment. Well, here's what happens. The Bills get into empty, and they're going to double cadence this. But because the safety's so far off the corner that's coming, there's no indicator. So Josh is sliding the protection left because he doesn't think anything's coming from the right. Well, he's wrong because the Chiefs do such a great job of describing. You really can only block 2 to his right because the center's moving left. And now you basically have 2 free runners on the most important play of the game. So I just think that, listen, Spags deserves the credit, and he does an excellent job of dialing it up when you need to have it. But the other thing he does is such a good job of, it's the details. Quarterbacks now are so good with all these double cadences, and you do such a good job of using motion or getting into empty so they can see it. Like, it's basically like reading the defense's mail. Like, okay, I see it. Here's where it comes. But it's the detail with everybody being on the same page of not giving it away.
Yep.
So I think like that's the difference of like why a quarterback sees it and makes you pay for it, or gets caught off guard and ends up having to throw the ball, basically up for grabs.
And Buffalo, who is here in part because of a tight end drop the week before, Kincaid is going to be ill forever because a ball hits him in the arm and they're in field goal range. Who knows? Yep. Maybe they score a touchdown. Maybe we don't know. He didn't make it. And then Kansas City gets that third down completion to Pirine. They take knees. They're on to the Super Bowl again against Philadelphia. I hesitate to talk about what Philadelphia did today in terms of if they can do it against the Chiefs, because Kansas City's defense is far superior to Washington's. We understand that's not the Commander's strength at this point. But I don't know how you stop Saquon, and this Kansas City team's going to have to do that. Is that where you start the analysis?
That's it. That is 100% where it goes. Listen, he's a special runner. They have really good players up front. They've got a great scheme. And listen, sometimes the back is just better than the guys that are trying to get him down. Like, to me, that ends up being the key in this football game. And by the way, the Bills ran the ball on Kansas City.
Yeah, Cook, the one, I didn't make the point yet on that last drive, Cook didn't touch the football, which I think in retrospect you wonder, they had enough time, they could have used him, and he got big numbers in this game.
So people have been able to run it, and one of the things you can do against Spags' defense, if you stay in third and manageable, and he wants to get some of the exotic pressures, you run the ball against it and try to split it. That's something that you can try to do. So staying on schedule is important.
You understand it doesn't make any difference because Kansas City will win because I'm not even kidding. I mean, at some point Kansas City will lose a football game in the postseason, but when it does, I'm not going to be able to figure out how the hell it happened, right? Well, I mean, just the first thought?
Listen, look, the experience of Andy Reid, that quarterback, the Spags, all of it. I mean, like, it's hard to beat. So
this just in.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Look, when you have those three pieces.
Right.
Maybe the best defensive coordinator ever. One of the best coaches of all time as your head coach.
And that guy.
Who's many people think will go down as the best ever.